Okay. So tonight, what I wanted to talk to you about is, why was the Buddha referred to sometimes as a great physician or as a doctor? What was that all about? The reason that that came to be is because he gave us the analogy of medicine for the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths, and I will tell you what they are considered the foundational teaching of the Buddhas. They may not have been the first thing that he taught, but they're definitely core Buddhist teachings. And at the time that the Buddha lived, a number of teachers were using this four-part teaching style, where they would introduce something as if they were a doctor, and they would say, first, know the sickness, then abandon the cause of the sickness, then aspire to the cure and rely upon the medical treatment. And the Buddha said that in terms of the Four Noble Truths. He said, because the first noble truth is suffering exists. He said, so no suffering, abandon the cause of suffering, which is craving, obtain the cessation, and follow the path. So let's look at that a little bit more as we look at the Four Noble Truths. First, suffering exists. You can think of this like the diagnosis. We're unhappy. We have this basic kind of malaise. And suffering, by the way, we could spend the whole time talking about whether that's a good translation of this Sanskrit word dukkha. Maybe unsatisfactoriness is a little bit better. It's that itch that you can't quite scratch. It's that feeling even when things are going beautifully and you think, oh, this can't last. And you're unhappy in the midst of joy because you're anticipating the end of the joy. It's that kind of quality, but we're just going to say suffering to make it easier on ourselves. So suffering exists. This stuff happens. That's the diagnosis. That's what's wrong. You're suffering. Why do I feel this way? You're just suffering. It's part of the human condition. The second one is that the origin of suffering is craving, attachment, wanting things to be other than as they are in this moment. I'm too hot. I'm too cold. I don't like this pillow. My robe itches, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, that's why we suffer. So I hit my thumb with a hammer. It hurts. That's suffering. But I also can have a decision to make at that point. Do I go for the ice cube and make it better and eliminate my suffering, or at least reduce it? Or do I hop around on one foot and cuss a blue streak and say, I can't believe I did that, and I make it worse, don't I? Because I'm putting fuel on the fire. So we have this suffering, which is our diagnosis. Then we have the origin of it is fine-tuning the diagnosis, saying this is the cause. So it's like if I go to the doctor and they say, you have the flu, which I had a couple of weeks ago. How the hell did I get the flu? I don't leave my house. If I go to the post of the mailbox at the end of my driveway, I have a mask on. How did I get the flu? That would be number two. Okay, well, here's how you got the flu. And in this case, we don't know how I got the flu, but how we ended up suffering is because we're attached to things we can't have. It's okay to have some healthy attachments, but when we use that word in Buddhism, there should be the word unhealthy in front of it. It's an unhealthy attachment. We want stuff that's not good for us, things that aren't going to scratch that itch, okay? Then the third noble truth is there is a cessation of suffering. So we're diagnosed the illness. We have the cause of the illness. Number three is kind of a yes, no. Is there a cure? Yes, the Buddha said, yes. You can suffer a lot less than you're suffering now. You might still hit that thumb with the hammer, but you don't have to make it worse by feeling sorry for yourself. Just go get the ice. Just do what needs to be done. Which leads us to number four, the prescription. What do we do? What's the medicine? What do we need to take for this? The Buddha said, take the Eightfold Path. And with those 8 steps, I hate to say steps because we don't have to do them in order. You can do them in any order you want. But with those 8 activities, if you will, we move ourselves toward a life of less suffering. I was looking online for some material for this talk today. And the interesting thing is I ran across several different scholarly studies, one published by the National Institute of Health, that talked about how Buddhism and medicine have in common the goal of relieving suffering. And I just thought that was absolutely fascinating that a lot of people are noticing that and tuning into that, because that's what the Buddha said he was here to teach us, is how to reduce our suffering. And we do that through the Eightfold Path. So I'm just going to go through it quickly in case you're not familiar with it. But everything starts with the word right. Right as in proper, not opposite of wrong necessarily, okay? But right as in highest, best way of going about something. Right view, so keeping a clear head so we can have a right view. Right intention. Why are we here tonight? If it's because we want to become better people, or even because we want to alleviate our own suffering, that's great. If it's because we're fighting with our spouse and we're hiding out in another room, not such a good intention, right? So right attention. Right speech. No lying, gossiping, hate speech, those sorts of things. Right action. Doing the right thing in traffic. You know, as an Angelino, well, on the fringe of the county anyway, I like to use traffic examples because traffic here is just nightmarish. How do we conduct ourselves in traffic? That's probably the single best test of our spiritual path. Do we let that car in, or do we cut them off? Do we honk the horn? Do we wave with all of our fingers? Okay, so traffic, that's a good one. So right action, how do we treat the people around us? The 5th one is right livelihood. What do we do for a living? Are we engaged in human trafficking, the sale of illegal drugs? Or are we doing something that's wholesome and that's beneficial to humankind and animal kind? 6th is right effort. Are we putting in the work that we need to put in on our spiritual path? 7 is right mindfulness. And a lot of people take the mindfulness out of Buddhism, and I have mixed opinions about that. On the one hand, it's better than not meditating at all. But on the other hand, you're only getting 1/8 of the pie. Get the whole pie, people. So if you try mindfulness and you like it, look at the other 7 slices of the pie and see if you like them too. But mindfulness is simply paying attention. It is a type of meditation. And then the last one is right concentration, which is just another type of meditation, concentration meditation, where you're really focused on something. So these 8 activities help us to reduce suffering in our own lives and in the lives of the people around us. So that's the prescription. That's the medicine. It doesn't do me any good to know that I'm suffering because I want things to be other than as they are, unless I'm willing to do something about it. If I go to the doctor and he or she writes me a script and I don't get it filled at the pharmacy on my way out of the building, I've wasted a trip. So we have to take our medicine. I'm going to give you one other example besides the 4 Noble Truths when this idea of medicine really, really works well. And that's with the 4 immeasurables, or Brahma Viharas in Sanskrit. Literally divine abodes, but not technically a heaven that's a place where we go, but an abode that we reside in internally. And they are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And each of these is a medicine that we take for a specific illness. Loving kindness counters ill will. When we're mad at somebody, when I'm mad at my husband, when he and I have a little spat, which luckily doesn't happen very often anymore. We're both becoming more adults as we age. But when we do, one of the first things I do is I do loving kindness meditation directed at him. And it takes the wind right out of my sails. It just dissipates the anger and the ill will that I have toward him, because I'm wishing good things for him in that meditation. And by the way, you can find the 4 immeasurables in guided meditation form just all over the place if you want to explore them, if you're not familiar with them. Compassion counters cruelty. Compassion is being willing to take on the suffering of others. It's hard to be a cruel person when you cultivate compassion, when you really work at it. And I want to say that these meditations really do work. If you work with these things, you will see the results. The third one of the 4 immeasurables is sympathetic joy, which is being happy when somebody else succeeds. Easy when it's your friend, not so easy when you can't stand that person. But if you do the practice, guess what? It counters jealousy and envy. I wish I had what they had. I can't believe she got the promotion and I got passed over. That should have been my job. Well, if I can be genuinely happy for her, my jealousy just goes right away. And then finally, equanimity, balancing out our likes and dislikes, recognizing that all beings have a right to be here. That counters both the opposite ends of clinging on one side and aversion on the other side. We said clinging was the cause of suffering. Well, the opposite of clinging at the other end of the spectrum is aversion. I can't stand that. I hate that. I can't believe they don't have Rocky Road ice cream. That's my favorite ice cream. I came here just for the Rocky Road and they don't have it. Right? That's because I'm attached to the Rocky Road. Now I'm mad when they don't have it. So it's kind of 2 sides to the same coin. And both of those can be softened and greatly reduced by equanimity. I mentioned that these 4 meditations are very helpful. I'm on my second husband. I call him my now and forever husband. When I divorced my first husband, it was nasty. No, it wasn't too nasty, really. We weren't nasty to each other, but we were both really hurt. Let's just say that. And I did loving kindness toward him to reduce my ill will, because I thought it was all his fault. You know, I had the halo and he had the horns, and that was my attitude. It was all his fault that our marriage ended. And I did the loving kindness meditation for him every day for a solid year before I got to the point where, as I told one of my friends, if I saw him walking across the street in front of me, I wouldn't change lanes in order to hit him. I might not change lanes in order to not hit him, but I wouldn't change lanes in order to hit him. Hey, progress, not perfection. But it really did help me heal and not be so darn angry all the time. So that's how the 4 immeasurables counter different afflictions that we may have. So this theme runs throughout Buddhism of we have different diseases and here's particular cures. So I've just given you 2 from some of the primary Buddhist teachings, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more, and it just depends on what the person needs. One of the things that I do is, as a priest, is sometimes some of you all and some people who are not here tonight will call me and say, I'm having this issue. What can I do? And 9 times out of 10, I will say, well, my suggestion is you try this particular type of meditation. Don't just do any old meditation. Let's dial it in. Let's do something very specific to counter what's going on with you. And usually helps. So the Buddha as the great physician. Does anybody have any questions? Everyone's ready for the test. Okay, clear your desks. No, I'm kidding.
Myodo, are you contactable through the website if I wanted to get in touch with you?
I think I am, but let me just tell you that you can reach me at myodo@yahoo.com, and that's pretty easy.
Okay.
No, and Oscar just put it in the in the chat. Thank you, Oscar.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to any of you one-on-one. through email, Zoom, phone, signal flags, semaphore, yeah, whatever works.
I just wanted to mention that I once gave a talk called 12.5%, which was specifically about leaving those other 7 elements in the Eightfold Path out of it and expecting mindfulness alone to cure everything, and being disappointed when you only get 1/8 relief. So,
Yep, there you go. I would have loved to have heard that talk, because I think a lot of people need that. It's better than nothing, but it's just like you said, 12.5%. Yeah. Anyone else have a question or a comment before we meditate? Okay, then we're going to sit for a few minutes. Thank you, Insan. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful week. I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye. Mwah.